order.
And if you haven't had a chance, take a look at the minutes, and once that's taken care of, I'll look forward to somebody's motion. So you're listening to
This would have been.
That's alphabetical. The closest one is the first one, and the second one.
So when you said link is the same, but if it's alphabetical, then it's joint.
So motion anywhere?
I move accept the minutes as well.
Is there a second? Are there any additions or corrections? Aside from the name on page,
Who is that?
I know his number, right?
okay.
My invisible friend.
Any other corrections? All those in favor? Great. Okay, next, no new business, huh? Yeah, no? Jeez, I thought we were busy.
Nobody has their act together, and there's no sense coming in with bits and pieces.
Sure. Old business, timber harvesting. And last I recollect, we were waiting to see if we could come up with a second place to take a look at. And perhaps have someone come down from, we have a good guess, Augusta?
Portland was where I was hoping, but I think I'm in Augusta.
Yeah. Is there anything new there?
I'm waiting for a call back from the individual that they think is responsible for that.
Nobody's jumping down that drive all the way down.
For a night out.
You don't have a person from Augusta?
No, I guess not. I was also gonna call you on that. Can you keep this folder together?
Do we have anything else that's new about the timber harvesting?
Flip page.
So we can put it up.
I'm just sharing the minutes with Steve. Where are we at?
Did we come up with a location for a site walk, Ken?
Yeah,
That's where we're getting to.
my slow internet feed here.
Yeah, good luck. Vermont's not on there,
Right, I'm surprised not.
right? I know, right? It's not important to them. They don't have to worry about it anyway. Yeah.
We're gonna
It's a
run
waste of
into
time.
daylight saving time soon,
2 weeks from this is November in this year.
early in November.
Well, it's dark at what, 6 o'clock now?
Just, when it's 70 hours, it's like crazy, it feels different,
Balmy, right, yeah.
right?
You have a possibility?
Couple of spots I was looking at was right across the street from Teppin's pit, right off the road. You can see this yellow one and this blue one are both town-only wetland areas.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I saw a turtle crossing into that yellow one the other day, oh, it was a couple months ago.
What kind of turtle?
A big one. It's probably a snapper turtle. It's probably a snapper. Yeah.
Snapper.
That leaves the blandings out then, huh?
Is
I know,
that,
I would've stopped for that, put it in the truck.
Yeah, yeah. invited them to every site walk.
Right. Feed him up good.
Where's that yellow area in relation to the Moose Pond quarry?
This is Moose Pond right there, this is the entrance to Pepin's right there. So basically, we can be right on the road and look out and see two areas that have,
And they just did timber harvesting in that area too.
across the street on this one here.
Yeah.
So this is, looks like 100-foot buffer roughly, 100, 125. And this is a 100-foot buffer on this, so this would be 4 acres roughly, I think.
And then the blue's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that where that mountain laurel grows on, you know, it grows on the blue side? I wonder if it's on. both sides of the
Yeah,
street.
it's right, it could be in this pink area too. That area, I know, I always see it in that area, it's right all along there.
What do you say? Laura?
It has like the purple flowers.
So what is it that you're looking to establish on those two places, Ken?
That they can see areas that are town regulated resource protections.
But are not regulated by the state?
Correct. They give them an idea of,
Last time we saw both and it was kinda hard to tell what the
Yeah.
line was per se, so if maybe we'll look at just a town one and see if we can.
and this is kind of off the road, we don't have to call and get permission and stuff like that. Maybe it's, we can see what that is. So that's a 3-acre spot right there, and then that's probably 4.
So,
Is it going to slant your idea one way or the other to know that I was the forester on both of those jobs?
Don't tell us.
there has
Did
been
you hear what he
a
said?
lake in both of those areas?
Well, this yellow one, you didn't do much in here, did you, Steve?
No, but I didn't do much on the other one either. That one-
Well, this one you can see, when you drive down the road, you can see
You can see out
where they kind of went through, so to speak. Over here, I don't think you did much, it's mostly. No,
Sit in your chair.
right? I'll bring that one.
So do you think we could set a time to do this?
Well, let's start with Saturdays. Anybody available Saturday?
This Saturday?
Anybody want to be available Saturday?
Look at the farmer's market.
I don't
Can't do Saturday.
We'd be looking at two sites that
Would have to be Thursday, really early,
use,
Thursday.
we're using
5 o'clock or
Athens
something. Yeah.
standards pertaining to RP.
Saturday's the worst for me. I get the
Well,
market.
what my point is to ask that question is that neither of those two harvests
Yeah.
were harvested beyond the 40% limit in or out of the buffer.
So you would,
So my question would be, is that gonna show you what you want?
let me get clear on one technical point here. Were you adhering to Acton's more restrictive RP designation when you were out in the, those two RP areas relative to how the cut was managed? Or were you?
I wasn't doing more than Acton's regulations
That's
were
what-
regardless, is
that's
the
what I
answer.
meant.
So all I'm saying is if you were looking to say, oh, well, you see here, this is where it's cut harder outside of Acton's resource protection buffer, you're not going to see anything different because it wasn't harvested greater than that limit in or out of the buffer.
I think we were trying to find a location possibly that even hadn't been harvested, that was in the resource
How long ago was the
protection
harvest on
district.
these?
Been within the last,
The blue one was last year probably.
no,
No?
no.
Like, you gotta say a year, and then you realize it was 3. It's been a little while.
Yeah, I'd have to go back to the intent. It's not been greater than 3 for either one of them.
Yeah,
Right.
and you can see what the retail.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, it's not been less than 3 for either one of them. The one to the south was David White doing that work, and I had to mark the buffer for him on all of the ponds and stuff on that one. And, again, Ben's, I've done the work on that piece quite, it was probably 3 for the most recent of the two, I would say.
So you can see regeneration back and, so my intent was just small areas that are unregulated to look at and see if there's a concern or not for the board to see.
Just to see what a forested wetland looks like too, still trying to.
Yeah, for sure.
But I thought it was easy enough because we can be on the road and not need to.
When you say unregulated, Stephen just mentioned that he cut those areas abiding by the more stringent Acton rules, did you not?
The entire harvest in those sections of those properties were not greater than Acton's limits. So I'm kind of revising what you said back to you in a little different manner of speaking though, because I wasn't looking at it necessarily saying, am I abiding by a stricter regulation, because my constraints for the harvest were already tighter than harvest's regulation, Acton's regulation was anyway. Do you kind of follow what I'm saying there?
Right, so based on what?
Harvest limits. If I wasn't cutting more than 40% across the entire section of that property, then you won't know where 100 feet is or 75 foot is. You'll be able to look at it and say, there is not greater than, 60 square feet taken or 40% removals or however you want, but I'm saying the entire property of those sections of those properties was cut by that, so you won't know the difference between whether it's a 5-acre wetland or a 6-acre wetland or a 10-acre wetland, because the entire harvest was like that.
So the entire harvest abided by,
There's more stringent standards, because the
Okay.
cutting limits were already tighter than what that was.
so given that that's the case, don't we have to compare and contrast one that has been done not abiding by Acton's limits and going the full extent of the state standards?
I didn't pick that site, that's for you guys to answer.
Well, I'm just raising that for the board. I don't know.
That would be, you want me to find a violation to go look at?
Or one that was done previous to 9/29/11.
It would be pretty well regenerated, I would think. A few years through it.
I just question,
Well, it'd be nice to see a fully vegetated resource protection area too, I think, just to see what it looked like first.
And the intent is for the board to look at and say, is this an area that you want to keep timber harvest out of? Or is this an area that could be timber harvested?
It wouldn't be out of, Ken, I'm gonna hop on you for that, though. You're not limiting, you are limiting the densities of the timber harvest there, you are not keeping it out of those areas.
We're not concerned with that right now.
Are you saying that this would require the 40%? You'd be into your options? You wouldn't?
No, I'm saying the verbiage that you just used was keep harvesting out of that area.
Right.
It will not keep harvesting out of the area regardless, it just limits it to 40% or not. I'm just making sure you have your...
In the buffer?
Right, we're talking about the resource.
Oh, in the resource itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, both, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I don't wanna
which is
go-
major.
Okay, if that's your intent, then your answer is yes, exactly. I thought you meant in the buffer itself. Now, the reason I say that is because the wetland inside of both of those two perimeters has no timber in it.
Correct. Yeah. So it's real easy to see where the edge of the buffer would start, roughly within, 10 or 20 feet.
Right, but again, I'll ask the question again from the opposite side. If your idea is to show timber that could have been harvested in the wetland that will now not be based upon Acton's harvest, those two places will not show you that because there is no timber inside of that resource.
that's what I
That's,
think we need to understand, in the field or on a paper.
I think you could visualize there were...
That may be exactly what you want to see.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
He's going to- What about the pink in the corner? What about this one here? This is going into Pepin's Road there.
Yep.
That one was done about the similar time to the,
No, that one's more recent, that was
More
last
recent.
winter. That one would be a better one, because that one, Pepin made me delineate what was outside of the protected area
Yeah.
and cut that part harder than what is inside of the protected area. So that's gonna be more distinct. If this were translated 30 feet over this line, this would look like this over there, would show that better, I would say.
And he's easily reachable and accommodated.
The Pepin owns across the street too, is that where?
I think he owns a little tiny,
No. No,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
oh, it's this right there. It's that little tiny bit right
To
there.
encapsulate, thinking here very quickly, what would be allowed in terms of basal area differences or whatever between Acton regs and state regs? that we-
on that one on Pepin, under state regs, you could cut down to the wetland edge clearing.
Okay,
So that would be a better example of what the state would allow you to do that Acton would not.
okay.
Now, those three places are literally within 300 feet of each other.
Park in one spot. And be
So
able to-
just park in one spot and look at all three of them if you want to, yeah.
Yeah,
So this was an older 2011 map of ours, which this would be the one we were talking about, the one across the street, and the other one. So this is basically the state resource protection we had prior to expanding the local resource protection. And as you can see, there's nothing there.
Right, neither one of them show, right?
Anyway.
Well, that little, there was a little piece that was.
Yeah, the stream,
Right.
stream protection there.
Second worst from,
So that little bit of a stream turns into this.
Right. Yeah, that spot right there, if landowners are okay with it, would be a good walking distance to all three. Again, I don't think the two Moose Pond one, the Ben's one to the north, would show you much more than an unforested wetland, which would be pretty to look at, and a buffer that is thinned less than the 40% outside frontage. But for illustration purposes of the, what you could or couldn't do under one reg or the other, the Pepin one would be a better illustration.
We can do it for the last segment.
So this is 31 acres protected, which on the other map is 0.
And the other two were just...
Had that little stream that came in there. What was the question?
And the other two were like 4 and 3. That didn't show.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And this one has that little bit.
so the condition of, if we went to statewide standards, on all three of those, as he was looking at there, you would have been, you would be allowed to cut right down to the wetland edge?
Yes.
Clear cut, okay.
Yep.
well, you built cut the wetland itself in those areas.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's no growth there.
Right, a lot of times you just stuff right, maybe
Yeah.
this is not that valuable anyway to go in there.
So is it,
So back to a
are
date.
we agreed then that it's worthwhile to go down H Road and take a look at those three properties? We just need to come up with a time that we think we can get the majority of the people.
How about on Monday?
Monday at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock at the site, just to beat the light.
Yeah, I could do Mondays.
Yeah.
You're talking about a Monday, not this Monday, because you still have your 2-week notification again?
It
Okay.
probably wouldn't be this Monday.
Right, right.
It's only 1 week, I have to,
Oh, okay.
because it's an extra meeting, I don't have to notify.
Gotcha.
I forgot.
So it would be
I
the-
cannot do the 30th.
No, I can't either, I got it done.
Does Tuesday work or is Monday the better day?
You talking the 31st of Halloween?
Or next week.
I'll be wearing orange already anyways.
What is Sunday be doing?
It works for me.
I could. So we're talking, the earliest we're dealing with is like the 29th, right? mean, the following weekend is where the times change, but I guess a Sunday wouldn't matter.
Right,
Sunday's already changed.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I
On
mean,
the
it doesn't.
5th, right?
But on Sunday, it doesn't matter, because we just pick the time.
Yeah.
Can you do Sunday?
It's not my preferred day,
Oh,
but
it's true, it's such a fun.
Anybody else have a suggestion?
We're looking at 2 Sundays out, is that right?
We're out to maybe the
29th.
29th.
29th,
What other days are you in, Ken?
any of the days, really. I think this is an easy one as far as light. 5 o'clock would probably be about the latest we can do it. Park all right in one spot and go up and look and,
Like it's three different sites, sort of speak.
Close enough to that gravel pit driveway that we can talk about.
All right, so we're back to a night, we're back to a 5 o'clock during the week, right? Is that what we're saying? I mean, at least that seems fair enough to...
We'll have to see what Dallin on Sunday.
Well, that's his day, that
is
he's
the
not
20,
working.
is the 25th too soon?
doesn't matter, it's all salary, it just a lot of the hours.
Yeah, but
Friday at 4?
Which Friday?
27th?
I can't do that though.
You're the 26th?
What day is that?
Thursday.
You can't get ready for the...
I can't do Thursday.
It's only really calculated if I went out tonight and posted it. It has to be one
Okay,
day. so.
okay.
The earliest we could possibly do it would be next Thursday. I can't do 5 o'clock. I'm still at 5 o'clock.
And Saturdays we're out, farmers market and so on. the
What time do you
28th.
have from the
What time do you get back from that?
Just, well, I'm down there from 7 to, by the time I pick up to 1, I get back, 2 o'clock, I eat lunch, whatever, I mean. Takes up pretty much the whole day, but I really wanna
You had it by then.
schedule the rest of the day in,
Right,
but
right.
maybe you guys can do it that day.
Well, we go back to the 30th after 5 o'clock.
Is that Monday?
Yeah.
No, I can't do it. What are you talking about?
What happens?
The following what's the following Mondays, like the,
6th.
5th or 6th?
Maybe we're out Sunday the 29th.
Almost.
Yeah,
We've moved to Monday the 6th, which means that time change is an hour different now.
so it'll be dark at 5.
So it would be dark
Well, I
at
hope
5.
not, but yeah.
Okay, it would be dark at 5.
And you're not going in.
Usually it is.
You're not going in.
Yeah, don't even bother on anything on the weeknight after the time change.
No,
No. Okay, so,
How about Sunday first thing, and then the 29th, first thing in the morning, just 'cause it doesn't eat
I
up
guess
the
we're
day.
back to that.
yeah.
9 o'clock?
It does church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate to say 9 o'clock's first thing, but
Oh, it is.
all right, so the 29th at 9 in the morning, and we'll meet there
Sure.
Yeah.
Like at Pepin's?
at Pepin's, the parking area there, we'll just park right there at the entrance.
Yeah.
and I'll call and let him ask him.
You want to ask?
Let him know whoever's calling and ask him.
That's right.
The other ones I thought we can see from the road if needed, to see what it is, or...
I don't know if any of them are posted either, right?
All
I
right,
mean, it's
so-
one thing to go onto non-posted property hunting, but it's another thing for a group of 10 volunteers from the
Well, I
town.
mean, if you wanna step across, 100 feet into the woods from the side of the road to look around, I mean,
I just was gonna say, no, I can't.
can't do that.
No, I'm not saying either.
So,
Everyone's wearing orange.
Yeah.
Bob's got
On
no.
Sunday,
Oh, good.
we
we
do
would
it.
have
more or less.
We wear orange any day of the week now.
We would have,
on the 4th or Sunday.
yeah,
I think I'm gonna need to.
Second, but yeah, we'll do that.
Can we
No, he's still sleeping?
all take an oath that we'll make this
Finish my
decision
chores
in
in the
one day?
morning or anything.
Oh, that's
That's
good.
all.
I don't
A
know.
little later.
To move forward or kill it.
Let's just see what happens when we take a look. Okay. All right, so everybody's good with that. 9 o'clock Sunday, the,
Yeah, but you need to do the.
29th.
29th.
See what I can do.
9 AM.
Still milking?
There's always something to do.
Anything else on the timber harvest?
Is that what you?
What's the highlight?
Gonna have to.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything else that you were,
No, I was just here answering whatever questions you needed me to. I had thought that there was supposed to be somebody from Augusta here as well, and I wanted to make sure I
Yep,
heard what they had to say as well, so we kept everything.
sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Is this yours, Tom?
No, I'm missing Carl.
Thank you. All right, is there,
He can give us.
anything else then? Do you have anything, Ken, on,
Nope.
Is this just for our review? With your own-
Well, I was told somebody's got bacon to do, so they want to eat meat.
Somebody's got what?
No, it's all done, I'm all done.
Are there recipes in here? Is that what you're saying?
2 points. That was a 3-point.
Oh, yeah.
This is just for anybody's purview, right? All right, so we talked about this as the idea that,
Somebody needs a copy for us, and we talked a little bit about the other day, so it's just some information. I think you really gotta see what the state's done in terms of law. I think you
Oh, great, okay.
all of a sudden put all these rules, regulations, things, and the state could say, you know,
yeah,
dislodge it all or whatever, so.
Yeah, they came up last week with a big change and what might or might not.
So you got all that?
Are you open to it?
I just
Monitor?
listen a
good.
lot,
Listen along.
Nothing wrong with that?
listen a lot.
All right, then, is there, I guess, a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
What was that?
What do we got going on next time?
Okay. Yeah, that's
Do
what
we have anything scheduled?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, we got that part done anyway. All right, so